Hello, fellow anxious humans. If you are worried about how Mercury retrograde will affect you and your sign, I am here with part 2. And today, in this video, we will be going into Aries, Gemini, Cancer, Virgo, Libra, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Pisces. If your sign hasn't been mentioned here, that's because I already made a video on it. But if your sign was mentioned, let's dive into it. Starting with Aries. So honestly, Aries, this Mercury retrograde isn't going to be affecting you on such like a chaotic sense. What's mostly affecting you guys right now is Saturn and Neptune in your first house. That's a lot. That's a lot that you're dealing with. Plus Chiron's in there. Like, ooh, girl. Let my condolences. I'll make a separate video on that if you guys want me to, because it is a lot that Aries is currently going through if you're an Aries rising, for example, or Aries sun. But let's just talk about this Mercury retrograde, right? Because this is not as bad as all that stuff. So Mercury retrograde is happening in your 5th house if you're using whole sign house systems, which is what I'm using. If you're not using that, then adjust it based off of your house placement. But anyways, I digress. Mercury retrograde is happening in your 5th house, and 5th house has to do with your creativity, your joy, the way you find passion in this life, right? It's a pretty fun house, honestly. It's ruled by Venus. It's about your love, your enjoyment of life, your creativity, if I said that already. So, Mercury going retrograde here is essentially reanalyzing and restructuring what that means to you. What does fun look like to you? What does love look like to you? What does creativity look like to you? You may start diving into different forms, different hobbies, different things that you suddenly like, creative endeavors, different hobbies that maybe you used to have in the past that you forgot about, certain things that you like to do that like you found enjoyment in, and all of a sudden you're like, why did I stop doing that? Like, I love doing that. Let me do that again. So it's about going back, doing the things that you used to find fun, or maybe finding new things fun now. Also having to do with your relationships, because 5th house is about like, it's about short-term relationships, like flings and situationships, and just like cute, like the beginning stage, the dating stage of romance. So you may go back to that. You may have certain situationships come back. You may have certain people from the past that you're like, ooh, I had a lot of fun with them. I want to have some fun again. It's up to you, okay? Like, that's on you. You know what Mercury retrograde is like. When Mercury retrograde is over, you may just look back and be like, ooh, that wasn't, like, I shouldn't have done that, right? So just saying, be mindful. It's the season. Anyways, next sign. My little gems, my Geminis. This is happening in your 3rd house of communication, which is really interesting because Mercury is the planet of communication. Mercury is also your ruling planet. So every time Mercury goes retrograde, you guys are the first to know. You guys are the first to feel it and be like, something's off. I don't know what the heck I'm saying. All the words are coming out wrong. You may say things extra quickly and it just comes out like gibberish, or people just don't understand you. People misinterpret your words. You're gonna have to repeat yourself a lot more. You may have issues with technology, people coming back from the past. You may have issues with transportation, because 3rd house also has to do with like transportation, your car. I would definitely take a look at your car. If you've had certain service lights going off for a couple months already, you need to go get that checked, because Mercury retrograde is prime time for that stuff to just finally kick the can. So definitely go get that serviced if you haven't done so already. Don't wait it off. Same thing with cellular devices, phones, anything that has to do with communication or transportation. I would just be a little bit more mindful and make sure that everything is set and ready to go. I know Geminis can sometimes be, because your energy can be so like frantic and chaotic at times, because you're just so much air just going all the time. You can be a little clumsy or just like knock things over. So I would, make sure you have protectors on your things and things of that sort, Anyways, we're going to move on to Cancers. Cancers, this is happening in your 2nd house of finances and self-worth. Therefore, there may be some restructuring. There may be some expenses that come up out of the blue. You may decide that you want to completely pivot what it is that you're doing to make money. The way that you're making money right now isn't a way that you want to keep making money forever. And all of a sudden you want to switch, you want to change, or you want to create a new source of income for yourself. If this is something that you've been thinking about for a while, Mercury retrograde now is finally the time where you will start implementing the steps. Of course, if this is a new idea, something completely brand new that you've never done before, and all of a sudden you have this crazy idea, definitely, start putting in the work, but don't implement anything until Mercury retrograde is over, because you may not be seeing things fully, clearly, as you will be once Mercury retrograde is over. But if this is an idea that you've already had for a while, then all systems go. Now, Virgos, similar to Gemini, this is your ruling planet, so you always feel it first whenever Mercury is about to go retrograde. Things just feel a little extra off, and it seems like everything you do is wrong. And I know with Virgos, you guys can be very self-critical and very perfectionistic, and when your ruling planet is going retrograde in the sky, it gets you antsy. It gets you antsy because you're like, things are not working the way they're supposed to, and I don't like it, right? But this is happening in your 12th house. Your 12th house has to do, it's a very hidden house. It's about spirituality. It's about your dreams. It's how you connect to source and spirit, right? So it's not super physical. The type of things that you're seeing, things not making sense, are not very physical. However, you are restructuring, reanalyzing, and maybe having your connection to source be a little bit different than what it used to be. You're realizing that maybe the routine that you had didn't make time for connection to a higher power, and now all of a sudden you want it to be. And it doesn't have to be in a religious sense, because the 12th house isn't about religion. It's about spirituality on a sense of just it's an all-encompassing, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like an ineffable, that's what the 12th house is. It's ineffable, right? And it also, 12th house also has to do with things like mental illness, so deep psychology, right? It's stuff that you may be hiding in your subconscious and doing shadow work. Mercury going retrograde in the 12th house is definitely making sure that you're going into those subconscious programs, doing the shadow work, and trying to, I don't know why it was just coming, trying to control your dreams, right? Being very active in the dream space. So you may all of a sudden start getting into astral travel, lucid dreaming, astral projection, things of that sort. Do it. Sounds like fun. Libra, this is happening in your 11th house of friendships and networks and connections on a grand social scale, right? Big groups of people. So you may be changing your friend groups. You may be meeting new people from different types of friend groups, realizing that the type of friends that you were hanging out with before maybe really weren't having your best interest, or they're just not in the same stage of your life that you are right now. You're growing, you're evolving, you're transforming, and you're outgrowing the people that you used to be with. So definitely, if you're having the urge to go somewhere new, explore new ventures, meet new people, do it, and you will probably find a new tribe of people. However, it will also mean that you're going to go through that discomfort of shedding old friendships and letting go of old social groups that you may have been a part of. Sagittarius, this is happening in your 9th house of travel, so there may be issues with long distance travel. Also, 9th house has to do with higher education, so if you've been taking courses or taking classes in university or even just online, you may notice some issues pop up with that. Or maybe you're deciding that you want to go back to school, that you want to learn something new. All of a sudden you want to switch your major or something like that. All of a sudden you want to go back to some place that you went to a couple years ago that's far away because you feel drawn to it. There's certain things that you're being called to that maybe you've done before in the past, or just going back to in terms of your intellect and in terms of travel. Capricorn, this is happening in your 8th house of death, taxes, inheritance, and debt. So you may notice those themes coming back around and rearing their ugly head. Something having to do with taxes. Maybe there was something wrong on your tax forms. All of a sudden you need to fix it. Debt that you've been putting off. All of a sudden it's hey, you're going to be sent to collections if you don't pay this. These are worst case scenarios, but ultimately those types of themes are going to be resurfacing to be handled. And Pisces, this is happening in your 6th house of health and routines. So if you've been neglecting your health, Mercury retrograde is going to make it apparent. If your routines haven't been aligned with the goals that you have in place, Mercury retrograde is going to make that apparent. And it's going to ask you to shift and change so that you are in line with those goals and optimal health for you. So wishing you guys all the best. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.